All right, I'm Dr. Scott Lynn. I'm the Research and Education Director. This is our second presentation of the PGA Show here. And we have Carson Hau from Canada, Toronto, from the Golf Lab. Actually the 2023 PGA Teacher of the Year.
Thanks, Scott.
Well done. I work closely with the Golf Lab quite a bit, and Carson. And I think what they really do is they use this technology with a variety of golfers. And so obviously we have a lot of words that we use to talk about this stuff when we're talking amongst golf teachers. But when you're talking to their student and they don't have that information, you have to use a little bit of different language to convey these informations. And I think this is what Carson's going to be really good at conveying, kind of the language you use when you talk about this stuff with your students. So I'll turn it over to Carson.
Thank you. Fellow Canadian. So a big thing that we're going to talk about today is just how to create language with your students. So I think when we first got this play, we got it 6 years ago or 7 years ago now, and we were the only people in Canada with the ground reaction force play. And I remember getting this play and be like, Scott, what the hell am I looking at? How do I change this stuff? What does it all mean? So once you start to figure out like what everything means, and we work with students, number one thing that we try to do with our students is one is get them to understand why it's important for them. When they start to understand why they're trying to make a change and understand the action that they do, you can start to create language or communication for the actions you're trying to create, right? So like, I know like you're gonna see a lot of presentations about vertical force and timing and how to create more, but we're gonna go over just like what vertical force means and like different ways to actually train vertical force with students. Because what you're gonna find when you work with students, like I'm assuming that most of you either have worked with a force plate before or just considering working with a force plate. The thing is when you start to get things like this, it's so new in the golf world that a lot of students have no idea what you're talking about or how to like change it, right? So I'm just gonna use vertical force as my first example just because it's typically the easiest thing for golfers to actually wrap their head around. And I guess when you start to ask people like, what would be vertical force, right? And what vertical force means is like pushing down to the ground or jumping up. So like when you get the people to understand that, okay, if you're trying to create vertical force, I want you to jump as high as you can, right? And then, can I get someone, use an example from someone? I'm gonna stare at you. No, you don't wanna jump? Nick, can you jump? Okay, can we do a manual capture?
This way, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And whenever you're ready, I just want you to jump as high as you can.
Whoa, good effort.
Oh. So all we're doing here is trying to get someone like Nick, stand back here, someone like Nick to jump to create as much vertical as possible. And what we're trying to do is get this graph to go as high as we can. So we got 234% vertical, which is like pretty outstanding, right? All right, but so someone like yourself is like, okay, when you did that, did you feel like you had to push down to the ground to go up, or did you feel like you had to go up into the air to jump as high as you could?
So I kind of use the scale analogy.
Okay.
I kind of feel like I'm lowering, and we'll say unweighting, that negative acceleration, then catch myself to push all the way back up.
This is a rare student right here.
Right. So of course I choose a student. But so what's interesting though, if you listen to what he said, he squatted down to unweight. Right, so obviously we like unweighting something that students no clue about.
Nobody would have it.
When you start to say, okay, what'd you do? Did you push down? Did you go up? You said I squatted down and I pushed down to the ground, and I went as high as I could. Right, so when you start to understand like how a student's mind works, like you're talking more about ground force versus reaction, right? Because that's different, right? So now when I talk to you about giving you new cues, it's all going to be about how to push down to the ground, not to go up. Right? I know I got a student over there, Ron. When we talk about vertical, it's all about left shoulder high, right? And for him, that's a great cue because that's how he learns. He's like, when I ask him to jump, he's like, I think about going up, right? So I want all the cues to go up to change what your body's doing versus you thinking about going down because, well, for you, you're going down because that's how you think, which is great. So like, for someone like you, I would give you the idea of like, okay, you know what? How do you push on a gas pedal? Yeah, push down with your ankle. Right? So with a lot of people with, I'll say, vertical force issues, we were just talking about one of your students like, getting on the heel. Whereas like, if you want to create vertical force, I want someone to go here and push down to jump up. So that heel's actually to come off the ground. What you'll see with a lot of the big hitters, like you ask Drew to ramp up his swing, he's jumping, he's on his toes and he's jumping off the plate. Right? We see that a lot with a lot of long drive guys, is that they're going to jump and they're going to push down enough that they're up in the air. And it's not a bad thing. I think a lot of golfers believe that, or like I'll say traditional golf coaches have always said, oh, feet got to stay flat, quiet, you lose your balance. You look at all the big hitters on the tour that are pound for pound the longest hitters, yeah, they're all up in the air, foot up, moving, right? Foot shuffle, like Scotty Scheffler, one of the best players in the world. He's got some crazy foot action. There's nothing wrong with that. I think what's important is that you understand what you're trying to achieve with your golfers. Now, I'm not going to get into like why vertical is important or torque or horizontal, because that's very individual for each player, and I think that's important when you start to work with ground reaction forces, is that you treat everyone as a one of one. Right, so vertical might be good for you. Like I just use you as an example for vertical, and vertical may be great for you. It could also probably ruin you as well. Like, right, there's like when you work with ground force, they're all like knobs, right? So it's like, if I turn this one up, is that going to be good for you, or do I need to turn that one down? Right, when we get into stuff like horizontal, right, and this is always a fun one, but like horizontal, like you can definitely have too much horizontal, right? Especially when you get guys that sway and get to the outside. So when we go with people that have too much horizontal, it's like, do we either try to turn down the horizontal, or do we try to increase their braking force? Right? And this is where we start to get dive into a little bit more.
And I think this language is really important because some people think this is all based on Newton's laws, right? Newton's laws is action and reaction. And so Nick, when he thought about jumping higher, he thought about the action force, which was pushing down. Whereas Ron thinks about the reaction force, which is coming back up. And if you get that communication wrong with your student, they won't understand what the heck you're talking about. And so I think this horizontal one will be a really good example.
Yeah, the horizontal one's pretty
because
fun.
Some people think one way, some people think another way. And if you get that communication wrong, they're not going to really understand what you're saying, and you're not going to get the best results out of that. Let's get a less educated
okay.
model for this.
So who's never used a force plate before? Anyone?
You've never used it? Perfect.
Perfect. Come on up.
You are our man.
Okay. All right. So we're just gonna go deal more with horizontal. So horizontal is side to side, kind of like swaying. Okay. So when I wanna, I'll say increase horizontal, right? The whole idea is like, can you jump off the plate that way? I guess if you're gonna try to push off as hard as you can, like if you're gonna bound and you're literally gonna jump off the plate, all right?
You wanna manually trigger this? So when he says go, I want you to laterally bound as far as you can that way.
Like just jump sideways.
Just jump sideways. Oh, there's a lot of left foot pull there.
Good, I like
All
it.
right.
That's really good.
He's like, what? Ooh,
perfect.
So 76, so okay, so to put it in perspective, most golfers only get like somewhere between like that 8 and 15% of horizontal from side to side, right? So if we were looking to increase it, we were trying to get them to feel like, what did you do there? Did you feel like you were loading and pushing this way, or did you feel like you had to jump that way?
I feel like I push off on my left side.
Yeah, I was looking at that.
Pull
I was like,
off your left
he was
side.
pulling.
Yeah, okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
That's what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Cool.
I know, he's like, what the? So like, I mean, without going through into like crazy stuff, like leg dominance, he's probably left leg dominant.
Yeah, probably.
So like, I'd probably want to, like without seeing screen and stuff, I'd probably want to limit your horizontal, right? Or like,
Well, I'm bad at sliding when I swing, so.
right, so, okay, so there you go. So like, just by kind of going through this, I'm saying, okay, you're a left leg puller, so like, I don't want to see a lot of horizontal with you, right? Plenty enough. So, and you probably don't get a lot because you're not pushing with your right leg, right? Because I was saying like a pull is always a very inefficient way to do it.
Yeah.
But what I want to see now is like, can you break? Okay. So like when you said like when you create a lot of horizontal, like you start to sway it too much, you block a lot,
Yeah,
or you hook it,
Yeah.
right? So like I kind of want to see if you can break. So we're gonna do the opposite.
Yeah. So this is what's really important in the golf swing. If we create horizontal forces and we get our body moving this way, if we can't break it, the energy doesn't get into the club. And you see a lot of golfers that get that kind of saggy lead side. They generally don't swing it so fast. So what becomes really important if you start moving horizontally is that you break it so that energy gets transferred to the club.
Okay, we're gonna do it live again.
Yeah, my analogy is always like my arm. I can swing my arm kind of slow like this, but if I swing it at the same speed, and I stop this part takes off at a high rate of speed. So we got to teach our lower body to stop that momentum. Are we going to start over there?
We're going to start down here.
Yeah.
So we're going to work on braking force. So this is the opposite way now. So we're going to get you to land on your left. So here, when I say go, whenever you're ready, you're going to get into golf posture, and you're going to bound to your left as hard as you can, but I want you to stick the landing. So when you bound from here, I want you to go here to there. All right? But if you go over like that, that's not sticking the landing.
Ready?
I'm ready when you are.
1 foot, go.
Yeah. Cut. Right, so we'll get that up there. But when we start to see like people that have issues with braking force, right? When you start to teach them how to bound, right, side to side and stick the landing, that's learning how to use your foot to, well, stop your momentum, right? Because a lot of sliders go here and there, and you also start to see like if you get into their pressure, oh, he wasn't standing on the plate at first.
Do it again.
So what we can do is get him to jump from the plate off. It won't show braking force though, because he's not. This only works for in baseball with 2 large plates.
No. Hang on. Hop over there. We're gonna fool it.
Oh.
Tell me when you're ready to jump. 3, 2, 1. Trigger.
Oh, but you guys are like the same weight profile. Yeah.
That's great. I love it.
We're gonna fool it. There you go.
Oh, that is so. That's awesome. That is so.
There you go, 130.
They don't give out PhDs for nothing.
But so when you start to go through stuff like this and like, okay, if you're trying to increase braking force, right? If you start to teach someone to bound side to side, right? You start to learn how do I stick my landing here instead of letting my body roll over it outside their foot. So like, I'll do a lot of pressure training with the foot. Can you pull up the pressure and stance? And can you bring it to the point where he lands? Oh, there you go.
You gotta see it.
So, which is great though. So when you actually watch this and you look at his peak braking force here, you'll actually see that your pressure is actually on the instep of your foot. Right, on the inside. Right, so whenever you're trying to create any type of motion, whether it's pushing to your left or stopping your momentum, typically anything powerful is going to come from the instep of your feet. Right? There's a lot of golfers, when they start to push, they like to roll to the outside. And that's, as soon as you get to the outside, you can't brake. Right? So the people that have trouble with their braking force, you just gotta learn how to use your feet appropriately. So funny, when we get you to the extremes of like jumping and bounding, you do it yourself. Right? I bet in your golf swing, if we looked at it and if we were hitting balls here, we'd see you roll. Actually, I played golf with you on Monday, so yeah, you do that, right? So, right, but you get that roll to the other side, that's why you can't swing. You're like, that's why I don't want to use horizontal. Right? So we just got to teach you how to use like the right parts of your feet to like create brakes or create force.
And what was really interesting, I thought, if you watched his bound from here to there when he didn't have to brake, he was much more aggressive with his push-off. When he knew he had to brake, he toned down the push-off. Because if you think, if I tell you your car can only brake 50 miles an hour, you're going to drive 60? No, that's dumb, because I'm going to kill myself. And so he's smart enough to know when I have to stick the landing, I'm not going to put as much gas into the system. And so a lot of golf teachers, if you know the brake's only a certain amount, turning down the gas actually creates a more efficient strike, and it can actually create more speed. It's amazing that having less force can actually result in more speed, because in your body, that's what you can handle. Awesome, thank you.
Let's hit the last one, I guess. Torque.
Torque. Now we're gonna get fancy.
Torque is the fun one.
He's torque.
She's torque, like high torque or
You
low
just got
torque?
volunteered.
You're voluntold. Okay, so can you pull up? Okay. So we're gonna talk a little bit about what torque is first. Like, what's your understanding of torque? Are you like Nick's level, like super nerd?
He's probably more super nerd. I'm playing little nerd.
Okay. So can you explain to me like what torque is?
Rotation.
Okay, cool. Rotation of the plate, awesome. I mean, so like, yeah, like when we talk about torque force, it's about like trying to spin the plate. Right. Well, that's our way of creating rotation. Okay, so are you super high in torque? Is that why you were asked, or are you super
I have
low?
like no lateral move and just all rotation.
Okay.
Yep.
So, okay, we're gonna do this test then.
Okay.
So, no golf club. All I want you to do is I want you to, like, safely, don't twist your ankle or anything on me, please, is jump as high as you can and try to do a 360.
360.
360, or 180. I don't know, what do you feel safe with? If you're high in torque, I'm like, go 360.
270.
Right?
Let's
Okay.
split the difference.
So
Split the
jump
difference.
as high as I can.
Jump and spin.
Okay.
Woo, ooh, okay, not bad.
Nice one.
Ta-da.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I mean, I guess if it was cool, we could actually do a single foot with this.
Yeah.
Ah.
Can you zoom in on the torque right there?
So when you like jump and spun, for like when like the jumping part's easy, you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna jump up.
Right.
For you to spin, how do you spin? Like what's going through your brain when you think about like spinning in the air?
Right. So, I mean, I guess a little bit of like an ice skater, but trying to make sure that that goes this way and this goes that way.
Okay,
Nice.
perfect. So reaction force, right? So you're thinking about left hip going back, right hip going forward, and spinning in the air. Okay, perfect. So you're the opposite of Nick. Where Nick was thinking about pushing down, like he would have been, like in your case, he was thinking about going up, but you're like, yeah, I'm focusing on hip spinning, so it's not like what you do with the ground.
Right.
Okay, cool. So then, can we have 30, is that right?
33 force factor.
33
Yeah.
force, okay, cool. So I want to turn this up. So kind of interesting, like when I was watching you, like, I was just kind of watching how you like create spin, and you were kind of like up in the air before you spin, like, that's not that high. So here's what I want you to do. This time when you go jump in the air, when you jump, I want you to feel like you are going to throw your shoulders, like spin them around as hard as you can. Okay?
Like this way first and then go?
Right.
Okay.
Okay?
Load up.
Again?
Load up. And I want you to go down and feel like you're gripping your arms around your body.
Okay.
Okay?
Got it.
Ooh. There it goes. Here to catch. Was that say 1400?
Yeah, there was a lot of torque, but that was when she landed.
That was when she landed.
Go back a bit.
Oh, there's a 40 something in there.
Yeah, I would say.
84. Okay, so like that was like almost triple the amount, right? Which is great. I mean, like when it comes to like actual like golf swing, we don't have a golf club here to swing or a ball to hit to measure. But like if you're a golfer that I was working with and you're kind of up at the top, I definitely I figured out either left hip back or left shoulder back type of feel if we need to increase torque. I mean, you're already high in torque, so like I don't know if we need more for you.
She needed more
And we were working.
She needed more horizontal. Oh,
to get a draw.
well, where were you on the last one when we were
I
asking
know.
horizontal and
I just
bounding?
have a lot of torque.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, like, but it's a way to increase your torque. Like if torque is going to be your main power source,
Yeah.
it's not a bad thing to turn up torque. I mean, torque is the one force, I think Scott will agree with me, that you can turn that baby up as high as you can go, and we don't see people get worse.
Right.
Right? We see people hit the ball worse with too much horizontal. We see people hit the ball worse with too much vertical. With torque, you don't see that because that just means more rotation and typically better posture through impact. So that's one thing I never mind turning that up as high as you can go, right? Which is great. So since you're here, like right here, and you said you need more horizontal, or you need to,
For the intention of the driver to see a little draw.
Well,
That
a
to
little
get
swing
that started.
circled more right.
Okay. So, okay, I want to see you bound. So we already know like what you think, right? So you like to go that way. So like honestly with you, I'd almost just get resistance bands and just start to pull on you and just learn like, hey, I want you to bound against this resistance band, right? Do you have a resistance
I got
band?
some, yeah.
Oh, look at this.
So Carson, we used the furniture mover to add a little right foot push.
Yeah.
I didn't use a band with her, but you would say if I need a little that, kind of pull her the opposite way, a little bit of transition.
Yeah, I would pull pretty hard. So
Get ready.
I might run into issues here. So
This will be my second video.
So this is kind of working in opposite, because typically if we want you to be more lead leg, I'd pull you this way. But because we're gonna work like more downswing, right, I'm actually gonna pull you towards me.
Yep. Okay.
And
Yep.
so all I want you to do is I want you to go to the top of your swing. I might run into something here. I just want you to go to the top of your swing. Okay, so from here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the band, and I want you to pull against me. Good. So I say, even before you even move your arms, I just want you to feel, yeah, right there. Now, when you go to do that, are you, like, what part of your feet are you using? Are you pushing this way? Are you pushing down? Like, what are you?
I feel like it's clawing.
I like that. I like that. So like, the whole idea, like again, like we were talking about like how to create braking force with Evan. Like if you want to create more horizontal, it's like, okay, can you use your foot and feel like you're gonna splay your foot and grab the ground? Like if you watch Justin Rose work on Swing Cat, he goes bare feet.
Right.
Because he just learns like how do the feet move and grip the ground. Right. So like when I create a lot of resistance, you just learn how to do stuff. Right. That's why we always start with the extremes. So first you're like, okay, if you go to the extreme, you're just gonna learn how to do it. Right. Then we will learn how to implement into your golf swing. So if this was your golf swing, I would say, okay, you're gonna go to the top and I just yank. Right? So I would yank hard enough that I'd hopefully, if you don't do it, I'd pull you over. Right? Obviously we're not gonna do it here because we don't have anything, but this is what I would do to you to just learn how to push this way. Because if you're not creating enough, I'm gonna force you to teach you how to do it or else you're gonna fall over. Right?
So this is a concept called reactive neuromuscular training. So it's a great way to teach forces. You can leave it up there for a second, actually.
Okay.
Because if she can't learn how to stick that foot in the ground and push this way, she's gonna figure it out really quickly. So if you're one of the people that get to the top of their backswing, kind of roll to the outside of that foot, just demonstrate that for me. You'll see this a lot in amateurs. If you get there, now it's really easy to pull her over. And if you do that once, the first goal of your brain is to stay upright and not fall over. And the first time we pull you over, your brain's like, I gotta reorganize this thing or else I'm gonna hurt myself. And you figure out how to do it really quickly. And that's where the golf teacher can just shut up and let her brain figure it out, which is a great way to learn. Mr. John Dunnigan will teach us a little bit about that later today.
I won't take it away from you, John.
Shut your pie hole, or what do you guys say? That's awesome. Thank you.
I know, I was like, this is not how I'm doing it, but for the downswing, yeah, let's just do it. Yeah, that's
awesome.
it. But
this was excellent. I think what Carson has conveyed here, it's really important the language you use with your student and the language that your student is going to understand. Because if you speak to them in a way that they can't understand and they can't get the movement pattern down, you're both wasting your time. And so different students think in different ways and learn in different ways. And so if we can really tailor our language to that student, and I really like doing like athletic tests to see if you're not thinking golf, what is your best athleticism? Where does that come from? And I think that's what we kind of showed, right? So dialing in those forces and using the appropriate language, I think is really great. And follow these guys on the Golf Lab. They do a lot of cool work. They've been using our products for a while. Carson, thank you.